What's up, everyone? It's Ruby here, bringing guys another video. Today we are back with Drama Queens podcast, delving into 7-Eleven. Now, this episode is pretty intense, and I'm sure they're gonna talk about it. This is the episode, for those of you who don't know, where Alex has her arc moment. And I'm curious as to what they will say about this. But this was a very shocking moment in One Tree Hill at the time. Because, other than the school shooting, there hadn't really been a moment where we addressed something so serious like this. And so this was the second time where One Tree Hill addresses a very serious topic. And I don't know exactly if it's the best way that they could have gone about it. It definitely felt, I'll say it right now, it felt a little bit rushed. And I think it's because they were trying to really, get there by the season mid-finale. And this was supposed to be like the mid-finale, I believe. And I think it just it felt like we really rushed to get there. And the only thing that I would say, and maybe they'll say it too, is that I wish we had a little bit more of a build-up where we could really see inside Alex's head as she got to that moment, because it's not just like a sudden thing that people choose to do. It is a slow roller coaster to that moment. And maybe there were kind of hints towards that, but I feel like we went kind of 180 in a way. I know Alex here in this episode is going through a lot, but I don't know if the way that the topic was handled was necessarily the best way to go about it. That's just me, though. I know these subjects are very difficult to kind of go over, but we're gonna delve into this episode, and we're gonna find out what the cast has to say. I'm not sure if there's any guests or anything, but we'll definitely go into it. So there is a disclaimer at the start of this episode.
This episode deals with the topics of depression and suicide. If you or someone you know is suffering, please call the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988.
First of all, you don't know me. We're all about that high school drama girl, all about them high school queens. We'll take you for a ride in our comic girl, cheering for the right team. Drama queens, smart girl, rough girl, fashion metro, tough girl. You can sit with us, girl. Drama queens, drama queens, drama queens, drama queens.
Okay, there we go. Okay, I'm not gonna go deaf.
Today, we're discussing Season 7, Episode 11, You Know I Love You, Don't You? Air date was November 30th, 2009. Synopsis goes, Nathan and Haley's careers bring about a tough decision for the family, and Julian divulges a secret to Alex that big time violates Brooke's trust. Appropriately so, by the way. Meanwhile, Clay tries to resuscitate his career as an agent. Jamie learns the truth about Skill's new job, and a fresh from jail Millie finds an unlikely supporter in Victoria. This one was directed by our friend Greg Grange and written by William Brown.
Okay, so we have the usual
my
three.
God. Well, first of all, I was about to be like, I love that you added big time. I was like, oh, that's so appropriate. And I just realized I wasn't with you guys last week, and I watched 10 and not 11.
Oh, how funny. That's
I
okay.
was like, Jamie finds out fresh from jail. I was like, no, she just got arrested.
It's okay. You can be one of the viewers at home who did not watch it before you listen to the podcast, and we can talk you
Wait,
through
I
it.
love it. I can't wait.
Yeah, we did this with Joy, and it was a blast.
I do remember a lot of this episode. And now, Joy, your text from this morning makes a lot more sense.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Well, gosh, I have to say, I think we have arrived at the worst episode of One Tree Hill. Maybe at least my least favorite. I'm sorry to say it. And listen, folks, you know us. We are going to find a silver lining. We're going to talk about things that we loved. But I hated this episode. Sorry.
Okay, let me ask you, before you go any further with that, do you hate it because it wasn't a good episode of television, or do you hate it because of the content?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Say more.
So, aside from the fact that we hit a really heavy level of misogyny and harmful stereotypes in this episode, it was, I'm sorry to the people that I love. I think it was a badly written, badly directed episode of television. The actors were totally hung out to dry in this episode. We had, and who knows, look, everybody has a bad day. I've had plenty of episodes where I was phoning it in, and I think the director phoned it in. I think the writer phoned it in. Who knows what else was going on in their own lives and their personal lives, and I think that's bound to happen when you're shooting. How many episodes did we do? 200 something?
24.
22 or 24
Yeah, but
seasons.
out over 10 years, I mean, just so many episodes of TV.
Yeah.
Everybody's gonna have a bad day. It all just seemed to be the perfect storm on this one. There was a lot of dead air, awkward moments. Every scene felt like there was no blocking, no thought put into it. The actors were just standing there talking heads. The scenery was boring. There was no activity. It was like, let's have Jamie and Skills looking at the computer, and everyone just gather around and stand there and stare at them while they have this awkward emotional conversation. And everything just felt really placed. I don't know. I do know. I'm not gonna say I don't know. I'm trying to stop that habit. I have that bad habit of doing that. But anyway, I was not happy.
And you're like, why am I saying I don't know the answer when I'm actually smart? And I do. Okay, I have a question, because as you started to say that, especially about how many episodes we shoot a year, and as you were talking, I was doing the math of, okay, if we're 11 episodes in, it's before the holiday break. So you're hitting that point, everyone comes back to work, like, fresh-faced, like...
Yeah, this is
bunny-tailed,
literally the
whatever phrase is,
mid-season
in
finale.
July, and by November, you're so underslept and so tired. And yeah, your body just starts to get to a point where it hurts all day.
Wait, is it the Wait, did they say it was was it the winter break, not the mid-season?
Before the holiday break. So you're hitting that point, everyone comes back to work. Why am I saying I don't know the answer when I'm actually smart? And I do. Okay, I have a question, because as you started to say that, especially about how many episodes we shoot a year, and as you were talking, I was doing the math of, okay, if we're 11 episodes in, it's before the holiday break. So you're hitting that point, everyone comes back to work.
Oh
like,
yeah. So it is the mid-season finale.
Faced like bunny-tailed or whatever that phrase is, like in July, and by November you're so underslept and so tired, and yeah, I mean your body just starts to get to a point where it hurts all day. And like you said, Rob, I can get the timing of it on the humans, and it also can really be a bummer to see exhaustion in action on camera as a viewer.
Yeah.
I would like to ask a question as the person who clearly forgot what episode we were on this week and watched last week's, which is great for me. I wrote a question down about 710, and I was like, okay, I'm not trying to be like such a misogynist, but the extreme move for Alex to say I love you to Julian in a text message and then break her sobriety over this boy that she doesn't really know that well. And I get what it's like. She's finally being recognized. She's finally being seen as a whole person and not an object. We all obviously were begging for that on our show with our own boss. Yeah. But I had this sort of breathtaking moment where Alex finds her, or where Millie finds Alex at the bar, and I think, oh, maybe she knew Millie was coming and she's ordering the shots for her, and then she takes not one, not two, but three. And I wrote down, I said, am I being too cranky, or were we just indicating all the time that women should throw their lives away for men, and we never said it in reverse on our show? And then I was like, maybe I'm in like an emotional moment, but is there more of the same in this episode, like just more terrible writing off of women?
Yeah. This, I found I had a big issue with like the Alex of it all throughout this whole episode. It's funny, I had a bit of an emotional roller coaster. Genuinely, my third note is, I stand Brilliant. You know, it opens with this with Sweet Disposition playing in the background. You guys have this sweet scene in the kitchen, and I realized like I really am rooting for these two. This is awesome. And then Julian, just Captain Ignore a Red Flag, he divulges to Alex. So first of all, I didn't even think about this until so he divulges to Alex Brooke's infertility secret, which is like just such a capital T trauma, like violation of trust. That's horrible.
Especially think about the fact that this was in 2009.
Yes.
Like people talk about this stuff today in 2024, and it's still so personal. And
Imagine it wasn't even a secret that he'd been holding on to for like months or something. It was like a day.
Nobody talks about like the surgeries, the whatever operations you have to go under. It doesn't matter. Like you don't really advertise that. You don't say, you know, I got liposuction, I got blood, and then people just don't talk about it because it's very personal. It's your decision, and it could be for a reason, it could be for another reason. You know, there's often stigmatisms, and there's like no one like says like what medications they're on or anything. So it is a very personal information, very personal thing to divulge, and it's never anybody's business to know, and it's never ever anyone's business to share unless it's specifically from that person themselves. Because, you know, this is the same with coming out, this is the same with sexuality, this is the same with like mental illness. Anytime where you have the knowledge of information and anytime you know something about someone else that is so personal, you know, it is expected for you to not share it because that person is trusting you with a very vulnerable part of themselves. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if it's your best friend. You can't share that information. You cannot. And, you know, maybe there's a reason why they didn't tell them. Like, especially when Brooke and Alex are nowhere close to being anywhere close to each other. Like, this is just a step where it just doesn't make sense. And also, you know, I know Alex is trying to help. She thinks she's being helpful. But it also is very clear that, you know, it wasn't... I think there's a way for Alex to go about this to where it didn't need to be like this. She could have been like, hey, I just want to make you aware, you know, Julian did inform me that you are going through some difficult times, and, you know, my best friend, you know, she went through it too, and I'm here to support you. You know, I have resources, or I'm here for emotional support. Like, I think that this episode could have actually been a really good moment for Alex to step up on the plate and show how much she's changed before going to this moment, because I do think that it poses this kind of like harmful idea of, you know, if you just attempt to KYS, then you're going to, you know, become a whole nother person and start to like do this and that. And the reality is it doesn't always work like that. And there's not really a reset button on your life. You can't just start over no matter how much you try. And it feels like that the show is treating it like a reset for Alex. I mean, it's a good pivotal moment for her in a way, but I don't think we should have relied on that factor to bring Alex's character to life. And I feel like in a way the reason why we went in this direction to begin with was because like some directors thought that, we should include this like big moment. This is where we're gonna change like Alex's character. But I really do wish that we approached Alex's character with a more rounded thing. Like, we could have had it be where, Julian, Brooke and Alex, no, Julian and Alex, finish wrapping up their thing. They finish off, and, Alex kind of, steps aside and is like, spending more time with Millie. Millie's getting into the party scene. Alex isn't really like that, Millie's now being introduced to drugs and everything. She's like really persistent that, Millie should not, go down this path, and that she cannot be friends with her if she goes down this path. And maybe Alex even turns to Brooke for help and is like, hey, I know we don't get along, but hey, I was wondering if you could help me because like Millie is like just like spiraling and I don't know what to do. Like she's doing drugs, she's doing this, and Brooke can kind of vent to Alex that, yeah, I mean, she's like stealing my dresses, she's acting really weird, like let's maybe stage like an intervention. And I feel like there could have been a world where Alex and Brooke had a much closer relationship, especially going into the end of season 7, because I think it would have been nice to kind of develop that naturally instead of kind of forcing it after Alex attempts to KYS. I just think that there's definitely a better approach to this episode that could have been a little bit better.
Yeah. Yes. And then I realized after the fact, I thought, this dummy needs to go to therapy and learn about boundaries. Because the fact that he didn't set a boundary after she texted, I love you. Like, again, seriously, ignore red flag. Yeah. She corners you in a hotel room and takes off all of her clothing. You tell her no, his girlfriend is her boss. Then she sends a text, I love you. Mind you, every business interaction, there's also flirting, one-way flirting happening.
Yes.
But at a certain point, you are party to it. If you're not shutting it down, you are participating. So the fact that, like, he didn't check it, he didn't set a boundary about the clothing thing, that he stood by at least. She texts, I love you, and he's just like, oh, whatever. He's alone with her at the house and shares his information.
Yeah.
And then, like, doesn't even call Brooke to give her a heads up. It still would have been terrible, but at least Brooke would have been prepared for it.
Yes. To say I did a really bad thing. I got up, and I'm so sad for us, and I blurted it out, and I'm so sorry.
So that's the thing, the blurring it out. And this is why, one of the reasons.
And the fact is that the way that Brooke finds out that Alex knows is through Alex, not Julian. And that, I think, is the big problem that Brooke has with the situation, is that not only did he not tell her that Alex knows, not only did Julian tell Alex about how he feels, but also the way that, but he also didn't tell her that, hey, I told Alex your biggest secret. Like, Brooke learns everything about the situation from Alex. And again, she also learns that, Hobag shipped naked from Alex. Julian does not tell Brooke once about what is going on. And that is the one thing that makes, Julian and Brooke a little bit shaky, because Julian doesn't know how to communicate, like, what he does. Like, when he does do things wrong. And each time he does do something wrong, it's Alex is the one who tells Brooke what is going on. And I think, in a way, Brooke is more mad that this information is coming from Alex and not Julian, her boyfriend, future husband.
This episode, I say the actors were hung out to dry. So we were all doing the best we could with the material and clearly with the direction and staging that was handed to us. But if that scene had happened, all the scenes were early in the morning, all the opening scenes, Julian could have been early on the balcony, like, tired, didn't get any sleep, he's nursing a cup of coffee, Alex busts in, he's like, please leave me alone, stop coming around here, and she could just push enough buttons that he could have blurted it out in a way that was like, here's why I don't need you around, I'm dealing with this, my girlfriend can't get pregnant, now I've got to deal with that, and then now Alex has the information that they need her to have to continue on with the rest of the episode. But they did Julian no favors. They did the audience no favors in watching and appreciating who these characters are and loving them. And as an actor, you're like, well, this is what's on the page. Like, what else am I supposed to do?
Exactly, because you have to do it. You have to shoot the scenes.
Yeah.
And, let's be honest, there have been so many times when we've all gone to bat for our characters. And it's a really tricky
And
thing.
I think especially right now, because it is a mid-season finale, everyone is just trying to get to the holidays, right? So this is like the last episode you have to film in order to get there. So you don't have the luxury of time to say, hey, maybe we should rewrite this. No, everyone just wants to call it in and call it a day and go home, It's like when you're at the 23rd hour of the day, is like in the holidays, and like you just want to spend time at home, and you just like, you're rushing through everyone. You're not going to be at your 100%, performance, because you're just looking to get to the holidays, And I feel like that probably is what happened here, where, there were people that were definitely kind of just like speeding along to get to the holiday, and they weren't really, taking the time to maybe say, hey, maybe this scene should be rewritten or something.
You can't complain all the time because then you get yelled at.
Yeah,
and in an episode like this one, because it's weird, this is one of those ones where there's so many things I remember like it was yesterday. So many of us were like, what is this script?
Yes.
That I know we were met with God, you guys are just all being so difficult.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
we're not actually. We're just saying none of these things feel thought through. It's like we got a first draft and we're supposed to be on a dissertation, and one of these is not like
So it's like I said, it really took the wind out of my Brilliant sails and just made me more of a Brooke fan, because unfortunately, I see some of myself in that behavior, because I came very late to the boundaries game and learning how to protect my relationships and to prioritize them, excuse me.
Yeah.
But like after the first time Brooke already said she's uncomfortable with this dynamic, and Alex has been so out of pocket.
Yeah.
That right there is the moment where you need to sort of reassess the situation and start like protect the castle. Like your relationship is the priority. So if anything, overcompensate. Like, and instead, he's kind of like, there's a difference between being like a ho hum nice guy people pleaser, and when that goes too far and is actually harming your relationship.
Yes. And okay, so I love that you're saying this, particularly because you're giving this insight as a man, Rob. Bless you. One of the things that I will admit, like you're saying, you see some of your past in this season, and I mean certain storylines we've done in general, but some of the stuff in this season is so triggering for me as the adult woman that I am now, because what I see Brooke Davis doing is tolerating terrible behavior that I've tolerated, and not actually valuing myself to set a boundary soon enough, and making excuses for behavior and keeping it in, because there's that old adage of like, don't talk too much shit about your partner to your friends, because once you get over the issue, your friends will be mad at them forever. And that has made me stay in things that have been so toxic and so damaging. And then you let people in and everybody goes, oh, we've been waiting for this. Thank God, like we were worried, but we didn't know if we could talk to you about it because you weren't talking about it. And this whole storyline with Brooke really does that to me in a way that like makes me want to sob. And it's so hard to see her.
And also because, at this point, Brooke's been through a lot. So people are like, okay, let's make this guy work. And, you don't take the time to say, well, does this guy work? In a show, it's a lot easier to say, they should stay together because, you end up, favoring these characters. But there's also a moment into where you have to acknowledge, okay, but there is a problem with their relationship. Nayli isn't perfect, neither is Brilliant, and you need to acknowledge that. You need to acknowledge when Haley does something wrong. You acknowledge when Nathan does something wrong. You need to acknowledge when Brooke does something wrong, and you need to be able to acknowledge when Julian does something wrong. If you can't acknowledge the flaws in a relationship, in a ship, then do you really, is it really that great of a ship? Like, I feel like every ship should have its problems, but it has to be in a healthy way. Like, in a, let's address the problems, it can be fixed kind of way, and not just ignoring it and pretending that everything is okay when
Trying
it's
to work
not.
it out. Because I'm saying as a viewer being like, well, what are you working out?
Yeah.
Like, don't you just think you deserve better?
And who's in Brooke's life? Why don't we get the
Yes.
example of somebody saying, hey, what are you doing? This is not okay.
Yes.
And you have this, Brooke has this line in the episode, because to your point, yes, there is so much of this episode is the women seeking the men, and that was sort of the dynamic. It's with Brooke and Julian, it's with Alex and Julian, it's with Clay and Quinn, but there's a moment where it's a very sweet moment between Brooke and Victoria, where Victoria's like really showing up as like a good mother figure, and you're upset. She's like, it's fine. Like, no is not the end of the sentence. We're gonna figure it out. It's gonna happen. And she says, and if he's not okay with that, then maybe he's not the one for you. And then you're crying. I think you say something effective, but what if I'm the one for him? I'm sort of like going with what you said. It's like,
Yes.
Who wrote this?
How about Kim?
Yeah,
in that moment, like, how about you just be pissed and let yourself be angry because he really, really put his foot in it, As opposed to, but what if I'm the one for him? It's like, hey man, you got some self-worth in there?
Yes. And truly, there's a part of me that, like, in this moment, my life is like, wait a second, did I get like brainwashed into tolerating terrible behavior by our TV show for 10 years? Like, do I owe the next 10 years? Do I owe all those therapy bills back to our writers' room? Like, oh my god.
I will say the one thing that worked to help balance out that totally uneven dynamic is the fact that Rachel is straight up horrible to Dan when he is nothing but sweet and hopeful to her. Like, genuinely, she's pushing him to do the show and he doesn't want to do it and she's completely ignoring his feelings. By the way, best slap of the season, hands down, is from Jimmy's mom slaps the absolute daylights out of him. Because I know Paula, I know he said hit me in real life, but you see it, she genuinely slaps the shine off him. But in the wake of all that, they're in the limo and he's like, I don't want to do this. Oh, he actually hands her a check and he goes, I'm done. Here's your money. She's like, no. She's all business. And he says, we can grow old together. And she says, you're already old. and then he says, we have enough. And she says, it'll never be enough. So at least there's one relationship in which they have flipped the dynamic and the man is the one seeking, coming hat in hand for affection.
Getting bagels, so good. Please name the episode Getting Bagels, because that's what we got for this episode, and they were not good Brooklyn bagels. You know, it's throughout the episode, like, not
okay, they actually did it.
A villain, which is fine in and of itself, but in the context of every single woman having some sort of misogynistic label put on her. Even when Millie's leaving jail and the shot of the prostitute being carted into the jail.
Why are there so many prostitutes?
Also, it's like the Johns never get arrested. We just always put the women. I mean, that's a whole other. Let's talk about that for years. But it was Mouth when he was upset with Millie. He's sitting on the couch at the end of the episode and he's playing some kind of video game where he's just running around with a AK-47 killing other dudes in the video game. First of all, we've never seen that behavior from Mouth at all. But secondly, the just sort of the casualness of like, oh, this is what guys do when they feel mad at their women. They just need to relieve stress. We go. It was so irresponsible. And there's a comment that Brooke makes about being adopted. She says if you can't get pregnant, we'll adopt. She goes, it's not the same. And I'm like, oh my god, every adopted child out there hearing that line.
Yeah,
it was so irresponsible. I'm very upset about this episode. Sorry.
Also because canonically, Brooke has adopted in the past. Like, is she saying that her relationship with Sam is not significant enough to, you know, be important? Or, like, with Angie, you know, it's not like she hasn't already tried. And maybe it was, like, a writer who didn't know the history of the show. But it's like, Brooke has been open to adopting in the past. Like, it's not something that she's totally against. Wait. Oh, wait. Am I thinking of, like, what's coming up? Wait. Oh. Wait, no, it is. Wait. Is it? Am I confused? Isn't Sam... Hasn't Sam already been in the show? She has, right? Let me double check. Let me just... I just want to check. I feel like... Yeah, she was in season 6, so yeah, just sorry. I had a moment where I had to like rethink what I was saying because I was like, wait, did that happen yet, or am I just like putting something that hasn't happened yet? Okay, so yeah, like Brooke has a history of adopting. Like, why would she even say that? Like, I understand like being hurt that she can't, you know, produce on her own, but many women go through that. And it's just, it is an odd thing to kind of say, you know, and I mean, I'm adopted. I'm not saying I'm offended by, you know, Brooke saying something like that, but it is something that is obviously inserted by a writer or a director, and it's not true. I mean, you can have a really good, you know, personal relationship with someone who's adopted easily.
Get worked up.
No, it's okay.
I also found, I've been sort of flagging this for a couple episodes now, but I really feel like I don't understand how things have gone so fast for Clay and Quinn, specifically on the Quinn side. Because
oh my god.
Yes.
I'm sure you saw it in 10, Soph.
By the way, she walks in 10 and is like, hey baby, and I was like, wait, what?
I had a whole rant on this last week. Yes, it was like, did we miss 4 months they've been dating? Like, we're already to pet names? So this episode, though, one of the very first opening scenes is like Clay's been fired and he's at his beach house, and I don't even know what happens, but she just says, I'm so proud of you. And listen, on one level, I can understand that if you see someone going through adversity and they're handling it well, but like because of all the other things that have happened, it feels like two people who just really badly want to be in a relationship, and they start dating and they're like, wait, you want to be heavily involved? I want to be heavily involved, and they just like move in within a week. They're saying I love you, and within a week, and everyone else is like, you know, you can let this breathe and just happen, right? You know, this one it's kind of the same thing. Like Clay is showing her like very little affection. He kisses her on the cheek once, and then there's some stuff that happens like mid-episode, but then at the end of it, it's like Clay, he's kind of giving up, and Quinn shows up in his ex-assistant's office, clearly to hatch some plan to help Clay, which. It's interesting. I'm curious. It's just that thing of like, it's midway the episode, she says to him, he's like, I think I'm just going to leave Tree Hill. And she starts to confess, and she says enough for the audience to know that the reason I stayed was for you. So it's kind of thing like, well, also her sister lives here. Like, it's just that thing of like Quinn's whole life has become Clay. Like, Clay's like, hey, it's great you're here. I appreciate it. I got to get you stuff.
Clay's got the boundaries going. He knows what's
By the way, Joy, even to your point about all the ways the Julian and Alex conversation could have gone, like, obviously we didn't see it in the earlier years of our show because you guys weren't with us. But in the story, Quinn is Haley's sister. So she could have told a whole story about how great it is to be back where she grew up and walking on the same beaches that she used to blah, blah, blah. Like, she could have had a whole thing and then let something slip, and we could have gone, oh, she's giving a spiel, but she's here for him. And it would have tracked, and it actually could have been a good kind of exposition that would have told us a little bit about Quinn's childhood. She could have even told a story about Haley. Like, there's ways to do it if you're not being lazy, and they were so lazy.
No subtlety in this episode. None whatsoever.
And I think it does a disservice to the growth of a relationship and the payoff. When you come in so heavy-handed, it's just, it doesn't have the same thing than when it actually happens. You know what I mean? And again, I felt like they were just going, we lost a couple, but don't worry, here's a new couple.
Here's another one.
Yeah.
They lose their credibility as characters that you're falling in love with. Just individually as people, they start to lose their credibility. Quinn just suddenly getting out of a marriage that she's not even totally out of yet, and she's diving right back in with Clay. That's a character defect. It's okay to have character defects, but pick the right ones when you're trying to make an audience fall in love with new people.
Can you imagine how incredible it would have been if we had a character on the show that was a therapist that everyone went to see a la The Sopranos?
There's a Rain Brocco, right?
Could you imagine the incredible therapy sessions the audience would have got to sit back and listen to?
Oh, I would love
That's what we needed.
It would have been...
Wait, but there is a therapist. I guess technically there isn't a therapist anymore, but there was a therapist that was generally reoccurring. It was continually hearing out problems. I don't know if maybe she comes back. Does she come back? I don't. Maybe not. I know she was the therapist with Nathan and Haley, though.
Incredibly interesting, but no.
But
It's more fun to watch people not in therapy. I thought Mouth was very sweet. I thought that the Millie stuff, I'm just waiting for it to end.
Yeah.
Lisa's great. I love watching Lisa. I'm just so tired of this story that clearly is not about the character of Millie at all. It has nothing to do with Millie. Millie's not present. It's just this trope. And I just want it to end so I can see Lisa be Millie again, you know?
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, they're so good together. Even forgive me for continuing to reference it since you guys obviously did the episode while I was gone, but I loved that scene when Millie and McKenna come out of the bathroom and Mouth confronts her and asks her if she's using drugs in 10.
Yeah.
And the whole fight and the way that nosebleed just starts and he's just watching and she's ranting, it's like they were both so raw and it was clearly so painful. And she's just letting all this insecurity pour out of her. And they're so fun to watch as actors. But I have to choose, and I realize it might not be as easy for folks in the audience who don't do the job we do. I have to choose as an actor to like leave my friend at the door, this character that I love as a viewer, and go, I'm just gonna watch Lisa act her face off in the scenes. I have no idea who this character is, but God, I'm loving it. And it's a weird thing when you have to do that, especially when you have actors that are so talented that they could have done the storyline across a season and it could have really developed Clay and Quinn, Millie, beginning to have this addictive problem. Like it could have been given the breath it needed, and it just wasn't. And when you jump too fast into it, it feels like a shock.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in
Yeah.
addition to being an incredibly compelling story, just not when you do this sped up broad strokes after school special version.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, we've seen this on Saved by the Bell and a bajillion other shows, you know?
Thank God Lisa's such a good actor, because at least in those moments I can watch it and I feel for exactly what you're saying. So I don't know who this character is, but I am feeling for this woman that I'm watching on screen, and I appreciate empathizing with her journey for a moment. But yeah, I agree. Like, when's it over, please?
I remember when I went to see Green Lantern in the movie theater. I don't even know if I think I maybe just started acting, but I remember even then watching it, and I remember thinking about halfway through, I'm a comic book nerd, I'm so excited, and even then halfway through, I remember going, I'm watching two very good actors do their best with a terrible script. And that's kind of how I feel lately with Lisa and with Jana. Alex to me is just like, she's the worst in this episode. I don't know, like I can't stand her. But like you said though, so I can watch and go, but Jana's crushing. Like she's bringing emotional weight to some really crappy dialogue. Like there's no subtlety to it. It is peak and valley, and it's hysterical and manic, and it culminates with a scene in which she calls Julian, confesses her love, thanks him, and then proceeds to hang up and try to unalive herself in a bathtub.
So awful.
And Joy, I have a question for you, because I had this moment, and maybe it's like getting too close and nitpicking, but why is she in her bra and underwear? Why did she, if she's about to end her life, we see clothes right next to the bathtub. If you're really trying to end your life, why are you taking off your t-shirt and jeans?
I totally agree, and you're not nitpicking. This is one of the most infuriating moments of the episode to me, was creating suicide porn, basically, out of this moment. Like, they wanted a beautiful shot of a beautiful girl with a beautiful body in beautiful underwear and blood draining from her wrists, and it was an overhead shot, and it was supposed to be glamorous. And I am so angry about this.
Can I add to that anger? Because I'm still angry about this, and it's almost been 20 years. Using a suicide attempt as a cliffhanger?
Yeah, they're gonna go into it.
On television. To use this as drama, as must-see TV, as tune in next week to find out what happens, it makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah. I don't even know what to do. Like, I'm hot. Like, I'm angry. When I saw that shot, I was like, what are we doing? What is the purpose of this? The reason she had to be in her underwear was because they wanted the overhead shot.
Yeah.
Or network TV, they couldn't do it without her underwear on. So they put her in this really beautiful, vintagey looking set of underwear. And it could have been, like, it literally could have been her arm, like, dropping into frame by the bathroom floor, and you see a little bit of blood, and you cut away, and you know what's going on. They could have done that if they, I mean, there's plenty of other things they could have done too. But I'm not saying we shouldn't be telling these stories on TV. I just, it's the fact that they used it.
It's
to
the
try
way
and
that
make
you
it sexy
approach it,
somehow.
because like they're using it as a big character changing moment for Alex, because in the next episodes, when she does actually come about, you know, she wants to be different. She's suddenly has like this new kind of like personality that comes out, and it can happen that way. It just feels like they're using this moment to be the reason why Alex is changing, and not just a genuine like natural arc. And then they're also using it as a mid-season finale. And then they're also using it to push Julian's character and Brooke's character. It's literally using a woman to further these plots, and using this moment that should be, you know, very delicate, to further a bunch of plots. To change Millie, to change Julian, to change Brooke, and everyone, and it just doesn't make sense. Now, I do like Alex coming in after this episode. This when she becomes truly one of my favorite characters, but I just think that there was another way to go about this to get there. And I think if we had gone that direction, even more people would have loved Alex, because I know there are people that don't really like Alex, and it's kind of for this reason, because, you know, she never really kind of got over it. She was just kind of like forced to get over it. And it just wasn't handled in the best of ways.
That is, it's unconscionable to me.
Yeah. And that it's always women that are put in the position to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that when you bring it up, they tell you, well, this is the way it has to be. There's no reason she couldn't have been wrapped in a hotel towel.
Dude.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the bathtub.
Yeah.
A white towel in the bathtub. There's no
like
reason.
Jeans and a t-shirt next to the tub, meaning she chose to take off her pants and her t-shirt, which were not going to be in the way of her business. She chose to take those off before the call. Like, what? Mm-hmm. It's so dumb, and it's such a disservice to it. Like, I remember one time on a different show, I was supposed to be like about to die, and I was supposed to be saying goodbye to my best friends, and they wanted me shirtless, sitting upright in the bed shirtless, and I went to bat on it. And I said, you're completely undermining everything that's happening in this scene. It's gonna become a beauty pageant if this is about me and a shirtless in bed. You gotta figure it out. I don't care, but put me in a t-shirt, put me under the sheets, but we're not doing the shirtless, you know? And because it's sort of the same thing, where like, you completely take the focus off what's important. It becomes, like you said, it sort of glamorizes it or sexualizes it. It's just...
Well, yeah, because then how many of these girls at home who are in a position of desperation in their life, and it's like, well, at least I could go glamorously. Look at that. Look how beautiful that looks. It's so artistic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Marilyn took pills and laid in her bed, and it was like silk sheets, and like, if I'm going to go, at least I'll go glamorously. Like, it's not glamorous. And the willingness to put that message out there for young women, for anyone,
it's so irresponsible.
Yeah.
No, I
so
can like feel
sad.
exactly what you're feeling. It's so irresponsible.
Yeah. It's all...
I don't know.
Yeah. Listen, it's a teenage soap opera, you know, like, I know we want the best from it, but it was also at a time period where it was just like, you know, I'm not making an excuse for it. I'm just saying I think this is why it was okay for them. You know, it's because it's like, this isn't educational programming. This is candy. This is for consumption, you know? Not that it can't be that and disappointing. You know, you can still want better for it.
Yeah.
So much disappointment.
I think part of the reason it can be that and be disappointing is because we've seen that it can be that and be really important.
Like with 3,
or
season 3.
Yeah. And so it's really hard when it goes in the other direction of possibility.
Like, they handled the school shooting really well, but then they handled this situation not so well, which, I mean, I'm not saying that they're like the same thing, but it's like, if you're handling something like that with so much grace, why not this one? Like, it's just as important as a moment, and you're wanting to do it because you're wanting to speak to the teenagers, to the audience that's watching your show. Like, isn't that more important than getting the shot? Because nobody cares Nobody cares what Alex is wearing. They care about what she's doing. No one would care if she was in like full clothes, and honestly, it would be more impactful because honestly, that's normally the way it goes. Normally, they are in literally in everything because they want to drown themselves, or they want to, they're not thinking about, oh, let me get like naked or let me get undressed. No, they just want it to be done, so they just do it. You can have her like rolled up sleeves, but not like in this sort of manner.
Yeah.
To go
especially because they know in the next episode, and they might even talk about it when they get there, they have the shot of Julian picking up Alex in her underwear, undressed. And I don't even know if Julian puts like a towel on her or anything. I think he just literally pulls her out undressed, which is quite strange. He wouldn't just like put like a towel on her or anything.
From potential to letdown is it's hard. And I think it's also hard from, this time period that we're in. We've had so many conversations, and in so many ways, this generation has, blown the lid off of so much inequity and mistreatment, and like what really happens when terrible systems take advantage of 51% of the population. And it's not really changed that much. Like the conversation happens, everyone says we got to do something about it, and then it's a lot of more of the same. And I think it can be really hard for all the wins to see all this like backsliding. All it's like, what are we doing? There's so much harm done to people that it's really hard to feel like you have a platform where you could have done something good and you did more harm. Like, isn't there enough of that in the world? That I think is tough. And I get what you're saying. Candy, soap opera, yes, but
yeah, it's kind of, I think, one of the reasons why I have such an issue with the Millie's party girl storyline. Like when you portray addicts and alcoholics like in the same stereotypical way, you do such a disservice to so many people who are struggling because that becomes the perception of it. And it's like that is not the majority of people's story. You know what I mean? So it's sort of not only tired and boring and uncreative, it's also harmful a little bit.
Yes. Yes.
One thing I think in the emotional realm of this topic that they did a nice job with was hiring Renee Vincent to play Jimmy Edwards' mom to come in. And, you talked about the slap, and that was a really powerful moment for Dan, and I appreciated that they really went for it as actors too. But I did really love, and I have a little list of wins for the episode because I didn't want to be a big Debbie Downer, but I did love that this woman came in, this actress who I'd never seen before. I don't know if she's local, I don't know if she's New York, I don't know where she came from, but she walked in as Jimmy's mom. Well, we saw her actually in the episode this season when he passed away. And they brought her back. Sorry, I'm a bit jumbled because my adrenaline was really high on that. I have to bring myself down. But I appreciate that she was so honest and raw and getting in Dan's face and being willing to tell him exactly, showing that mirror to him. This is who you are. This is what you've done. I will not forgive you. I will not allow you to walk through this and think that it doesn't matter and that what you've done is you can continue to capitalize on it. It was such an amazing moment. I really loved that.
Yes, as to come in as a guest star and have to take up that much space and sort of command of a scene with a series regular is not an easy thing to do. But I think Paul's a great scene partner for that because he's the type of scene partner to tell you to take up space, to let him have it, But she delivered. She was fantastic. I also have some wins too. Some lighter stuff. I thought, I loved that Jamie is just over in the middle of the day at Skills and Mouth's place, just hanging out. Even though he's whatever he is, 8, I don't know. I just love that he was like one of the guys. He just happened to be sitting on the couch. I thought, oh, this is cool. It was like Cheers. Like Jamie was just there to hang out, to check in. I thought that was so sweet.
Yeah.
Their dynamic's great. I loved.
Yeah, that's always a winning.
Yeah, I loved that Nathan's agents flew in from whatever big city they're based out of. He's like, Haley, the team is flying and they got me an offer. And I'm sitting there going like, oh, okay. Because I know how the story ends, but I don't remember the whole ride. And they show up to basically be like, hey, guy, great news. We got you a dog shit offer in Europe. Like, you guys couldn't schedule a conference call for this really disappointing news?
Yeah. Also, when was the last time any of you had a business meeting in your house where someone stood up and presented to you? Like, there wasn't a PowerPoint or anything. They were just formally standing there. This is what I'm talking about. It was lazy.
There's the random assistant. Yeah, so I thought that was stupid and hilarious. It was funny. Yeah, it was great. The episode needed some stupidity.
But I like Clay. Speaking of the agents, I like Clay going out to the country. I liked the breath of fresh air that I got watching the countryside go by in his car, watching him have alone time and process through all this stuff, watching him communicate with this player that he was trying to recruit. And I don't know why he gave up so easily, but maybe you can enlighten us.
That was another one where the script is the script.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're limited to what the word is.
Wait, can you refresh Soph? Because I don't know if you remember the scene.
When Quinn is like, what are you going to do? Clay's dressed in a suit, and he's obviously getting ready for something, and he basically says, the agency didn't get all of my clients. And she's like, who did they not get? And he's like, I have this kid football prospect who's going to be the best quarterback in the NFL in 4 years.
I remember this.
Yeah. And I drive out to the kid's house, and I have this really, it's a cute, funny pep talk, like Clay, amps himself up in the car. The kid, by the way, the actor was great. Perfect casting for the all-American country boy who is going to be a quarterback. But he finds out the agency had already called and said, hey, that guy's fired. And Clay, Clay does give up a bit easy. I wanted to see Clay fight more. I think they're just waiting for the build when Clay like rises like a phoenix from the ashes.
Like, where was his Jerry Maguire moment?
I was hoping it was a Jerry Maguire moment. The one thing I did appreciate though was that maybe in that moment Clay didn't have the confidence in himself. I appreciate that he was honest with the kid rather than just going. Because the kid goes, "What would you do if you were in my spot?" And so maybe he was having a moment of just like brutal honesty and he wasn't feeling high on himself. But the thing I will say to his character, it was a great moment to see his character because he said, "Who did they pair you with?" And he says an agent's name, and Clay takes a beat and goes, "No, you should go with so and so. It's a better fit." So it was a really cool moment of showing Clay's character and integrity, that he wasn't trying to hard sell a kid out of desperation. Instead, he was saying, "Okay, I'm not your guy. Here's who you should actually be with. Best of luck."
Maybe that's why he gave up, quote unquote, so easily. But maybe subconsciously he was like, I don't want to be selling this kid on me for sure. While I'm still feeling a little insecure, I want to do this out of trying to make myself feel better.
Yeah. I mean, less than 48 hours ago, he got fired by his good friend for dropping the ball in his career.
Yeah, it was like he recognized, I'm not going to gamble with this kid's career because I need a personal win. Like, that was pretty cool. And then he goes to the largest grave ever with no date, no words other than Sarah's name. And that is strange.
So strange. That's not the last we're going to see that giant oversized gravestone, but yes, it is like a Texas-sized tombstone. And he must have been paying by letter and he was broke that day because it's just her name. Not even dates, not even a sentence. Yeah, man. I was hoping this was, like I said, all I remember is how this story ends. I just remember the scene where I come back to your house and I give a little speech. And I was hoping that was going to come in this episode, but it hasn't. It's cool. Keep playing the fire. The one lighter highlight of the episode was at least getting to watch Jamie and Chuck recreate White Men Can't Jump on River Court. For Skills'
It was really fun. That was
fun. The quote of the episode for me was when Jamie and Chuck walk out in wardrobe and Skills says, "Y'all ready? You know the first play, right?" And Jamie says to him, totally just with nothing on it, just very confidently, matter of fact, "Just get out of my eye line and someone call action." I was like, perfect. That's great. Yep.
Incredible.
Also, I like the scene with Nathan and Dan at the door when Dan shows up at Nathan and Haley's house. I don't know why he showed up there. Who knows why? Dan's always showing up random places.
He just keeps showing up.
He always shows up. But I was nice to see the two of them drop in again and have a, it's not a conversation we haven't heard before, but I always appreciate hearing Nathan stand up for himself with his dad because we went through so many years where we kept giving him chance after chance after chance. So that was nice to see him say, "Look, you came back to Tree Hill."
Are they going to talk about Rachel?
You guys had a lot of good scenes in this episode. Joy, I thought your stuff with Chantal when Haley and Quinn were in the car together and you guys paused the fight to have some real talk. I bought it. I liked it all. I thought I really liked the conflict or potential conflict of both of your careers wanting different things at the same time. You wanting to go out on tour and him potentially needing to go to Europe to stay relevant and in the mix. And I thought that was so relatable, so real. Maybe not the careers aren't quite as relatable, but that conflict though, like whose dream gets precedence.
Yeah. How do you make those decisions as a family?
Yeah.
And I loved that his solution was you come into the kitchen and he had planned a whole tour for you with places of interest to stop and eat and things to check out. And so
that was
to me, I wrote the note like that is top-notch husbanding. That's some teammate stuff.
Great partner.
Yeah, it's a great partner right there.
See, that's what really should have done.
It's going to be fun, and it's going to be for a short amount of time. But like, I have your back, and we're going to make this work. He found solutions as opposed to just living in the problem.
Yeah. And I think there's something to that as well. Like, because to your point, Rob, the career is not relatable. Being a touring rock star and an NBA player are not relatable for most of the world. But the reality of
sacrifice.
How does everyone get what they want? Each spouse and family.
Or the compromise.
Right? And so many relationships, you'll see, and we've done the dynamics where one person has to put their whole life on the back burner for the other. And how long does that go on? How long does someone ignore your needs before you are living in your house with a stranger? Like, we know what it can do for someone to go unconsidered for long periods of time in their home. And it's really refreshing rather than, not that those stories aren't interesting, I think they're things we can all relate to, but it's such a refreshing thing to, instead of going into, this is what's going to launch another conflict, immediately deciding to present a solution. And in presenting a solution, show your partner how much you care about
them. And it was perfect because she had just shown up for him in a really big way with this last controversy that happened. So it was the perfect opportunity for him to show up for her. Like, it's a great being like, by the way, I see you. Like, you got me, I got you.
Yeah. And it wasn't from any sort of place of martyrdom. It was an active showing up. I think the fact that he actually mapped out that whole plan and got excited about it. It wasn't just like, okay, I'll sacrifice what I need to for you. I'm willing to. No, he was active about it. He made it fun for himself. It was a participatory experience. And I love that.
And in creating that this plan for you guys, it allows him to be a part of it. He gets to be a participant as opposed to just like, well, my wife's off doing this thing. Like he's a part of it with you guys. And another thing I liked about that conversation was, I think you say like, no, you got to do Spain, and he makes a point of saying, no. I think it's like a couple years ago. He cites an event, or he just says a couple years ago, I remember you talking about how much you wanted to go back on tour, and I love that. Like he listened and he made a note. This is important to my wife. I'm gonna file this away.
Yes, and by the way, that's exactly the sort of thing they could have given to Quinn. Well, and it just gives you something because with our time jump, to hear Nathan referring to the time essentially between the end of season 4 and the beginning of season 5, right? Like those years we didn't get to see. That simple sentence, I remember a couple years ago you said, it fills in the blanks for the viewers.
Yeah.
Things are, they really, you just illustrated it perfectly why they go so far.
Yeah.
I think we just about covered that whole episode.
I don't know what else to say.
I think we should all just commit to not being misogynists and to no lazy writing. That's the bumper sticker. No lazy writing.
I'm really hoping the next episode is a good turnabout, and this was just a bad moment in time that everybody was going through something crazy in their life and just could not show up to work. The actors.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, we have a listener question, friends.
Let's do it.
Get out of this episode and never return.
Never to come back.
You picked a good one to not watch, Soph, by the way. Just skip right on to 12 for next week.
Honestly.
By the way, there was a lot. I mean, things that bugged me in 10, but there was a lot that I really liked. And my honorable mention in 7-10, not that anyone asks, is Daphne admitting that she'd had 3 martinis. She wasn't on drugs, but she was definitely buzzed.
All the clothing racks that she was walking.
Incredible. Also, that scene between her and Grubbs. Okay,
yes, we went on that one because that was.
I'm looking for a lover, and you've made the list. Incredible.
Cameron is asking us, what's an unexpected skill or knowledge that you've gained from working on the show that you didn't anticipate needing, but now you find it valuable in your everyday life? Great question.
That is a great question. I have two answers. One of them is more serious, and one of them is more fun. The serious one would be I discovered therapy while I was on the show, and that has been tremendously
Everyone
helpful
needs it
for me in my life, and I still go to therapy. So I would say that discovering therapy, that's not directly related to One Tree Hill, but was really helpful. And I went into the show never having done it, didn't know anything about it, and then I found it was like, oh yeah, I could use a lot of this. The funny thing that I took from the show, I will never forget this for as long as I live. One day we were on set and we're doing a scene. I'm usually pretty good with my lines. I'm off book. I'm good, but I went up on a line, and so Mike Leon, our script supervisor, I go, what's that line, Mike? And he gives me the line, blah, blah, blah. I go, all right, thanks. And he goes, it's a good script. You should read it. I think every single job I've done since One Tree Hill, at one time or another, where I want to bust someone's balls, I drop that line on him. It's a good script. You should read it.
That's so funny.
It was one of the best burns of all time, and so now I have borrowed it, and I will continue to do so
funny.
for the rest of my life.
That's such a good
Yeah,
burn.
he screamed it across an actor set.
Right.
Like, we're friends at this point, he's just busting my balls. But like, to scream that across the set with like 100 people were like, ooh.
Yeah.
Damn.
How about y'all?
Well, I think the idea of the best idea wins is something that in TV you have to kind of approach every day you show up on set, every scene you're walking into with that attitude. And I think that was something that I was able
You always
to
have to be
cultivate.
there.
It took a while sometimes, there's trial and error, but the more that you learn how to really listen to someone else's idea and truly objectively try and judge, I mean, you're never going to always agree. You're not always going to agree, but many times you can. And usually the best idea will surface and it's obvious to everyone, like, and whether that's blocking the emotional tone of a scene. And so that I think has been really helpful in my everyday life when there's any kind of just monotonous problem solving, any kind of random thing that needs to be solved, and you get a couple brains in a room and it's like, all right, what's the best idea? How do we find that? And you sort of detach your ego from it, and I found that to be very helpful.
Good one. Soph?
Yeah, it's funny. Mine sort of exists between yours because that's the motto from our show that I've kept, that I repeat all the time, that I say on every
It's a
set.
good script. You should read it.
Yes. I remember how striking it was to hear our executive producer say the best idea always wins. And I would say, honestly, that the fascination with how you build a team that can really work together, that was launched by that phrase of Greg's, actually led me down the sort of larger part of my answer, which is that when we started our show, I didn't know I was going to direct on it. And I know that I'm detail oriented and that there are certain sort of leadership skills that, I have from like growing up a camp counselor. What directing led me into that I didn't expect was realizing that I'm a very good producer. And that was something that had to be highlighted for me by our producers that we were close to on this show. And then I continued to, it's not that I don't love directing, I do, I'd love to get back to it at some point, but I am a good producer. I was on the campaign trail yesterday sorting out a bunch of things, and Busy Phillips was with me, and we were laughing about how cool it was for both of us to be back in North Carolina, like scene of the Dawson's Creek and One Tree Hill crimes, And at one point there was a problem, and I was like, oh, this is how you fix it. You do this and you do this, and we'll go over here. And she was like, God, you're such a producer, and we were laughing. And I realized that the shadowing I got to do that I thought was for directing really led me into going like, yeah, I love to do that, but the thing I'm naturally the best at is this. And it's been so helpful for me on all the movies that I've made and the TV shows that I've made since I'm like actually becoming a producer, which I never knew I was going to be, and it's so cool. And so in a way, it feels like the extension of Greg's phrase, the best idea always wins. Like, you might walk into a room because you think you're going to do this, but you're going to wind up discovering you're great at that. And what a cool thing to be willing to sort of follow your curiosity and your natural inclinations to figuring out how to be the best member of a team that you can, Like, I would never try to be the composer on a set. I'd be like, Joy, you have to compose. Like, you're literally so good at it. Everything for you is a song. It's music. It's a musical even. Like, I wouldn't know. You could tell me your life depends on you writing a musical, and I'd be like, this is so nice to know all of you. I loved you. You've all encouraged me to grow. Like, I don't have that skill. And it's so cool, I think, especially all of us getting to be together in this way now, that we get to see the natural, like,
it takes a team.
ways that everyone's developed. It's just, I just love it. I think it's really neat. So yeah. I second that emotion.
All right.
Yeah,
It's good,
teamwork,
good
I love the
lesson to
idea.
learn.
That is so true. And I think something we forget about a lot, even falling into what you're talking about with therapy, Rob, like we all we live in such a me culture that I think we forget that we really do need each other. We need each other for therapy, advice, for problem solving. Like, teamwork is a real thing. You get so much more done when you get out of your own way and just work as a team. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's really good.
Shall we?
Some more? Oh,
As
okay.
a team, are we spinning a wheel?
Let's do it. How funny that it just said most likely to win their fantasy football league, and I got destroyed this first week. I'm very upset about it. Oh my gosh, that is the question. Most likely to win their fantasy football league. Well, not Rob Buckley, apparently.
Stop.
We don't have enough time. I know some of us have hard outs. I have 25 minutes of complaints to do that I just don't think our audience cares about. It wouldn't be me, though.
I will just go ahead and admit that I've never been in a fantasy football league. I've been to like the party where the people do the draft.
I would say
and beer and
Nathan.
wings, but I've never done it, so I don't get it. I know
Actually,
world subculture.
No, I think Julian would, because he would analyze every single statistic and go
Culture.
with,
I don't even know what the right word to describe it is, but I just know that I don't do it. You ever done it, Joy?
No, they used to pass a chart around on set, remember, and you could put money into it. And somebody, I would just like, I'd hand the $5 and be like, put it on square. I don't know, I like the number 7. And I like blue.
It's a grind I do because my friends from high school were like, hey, wait, we have 9 of us, we need one more playing this. I didn't care all about football. I only did because I thought, well, for 4 months out of the year, I'll talk more with these guys more regularly. It was just about connection. And then I caught the bug.
Yeah.
And now I'm trying to find the balance between, I was literally just venting about this to a buddy last night. I was like, in theory, I like this game, but it's definitely not benefiting my mental health. Like, I was trying to actually go, how much of this day is about it was a hard day of parenting versus I made a terrible trade that just blew up in my face?
Oh no.
Can I ask a question, because I don't know how this works? Do you, like, I get what it is to make a fantasy football team, but then does that mean that you have to watch all the games, or is there some sort of app or website that gives you the info every week?
Oh yeah, it's all on an app. So it's like it's either there's like 3 big ones that do it.
I realize I just sounded like a grandma, but I just
No, I have no idea either. Why did they even pass it? Do you remember when they would pass around a chart on set?
That wasn't fantasy football. That was betting on individual games.
Oh, what's that called?
That was like a football pool.
Sometimes it can be called
Oh.
survivor pools. It's actually just called like a pick'em. It'll be like $5 on Green Bay plus 2 points.
I actually have no idea what fantasy football is. I mean, I've heard of the term, but I have no idea.
D&D for guys who like to think they're jocks.
Yes, sounds about right.
And what I would like to vote for, I think the only way you could convince me to play fantasy football is to do it the way I just found out my friend's cousin did it, or rather, my friend's cousin's girlfriend. She got suckered into being in a fantasy football league with a bunch of people and was like, yeah, I'll do it if I can only draft guys named Jake. So her entire team is made up of football players named Jake.
Genius.
And she's actually crushed people more than once now, and I deeply respect it. So I will see if I can get some more information on that. She's like, don't care, don't even need to know what positions they play. I'm just going to do this for fun and see what happens.
Is Jake the name of someone special in her life, or was that just totally arbitrary?
I don't
She
know.
just noticed there's a lot of football players named Jake, and she was like, Jake.
Maybe the thing is to figure out like how many people do you have on a team?
Oh, like 11, maybe? 11 or 12. Yeah, 11 or 12.
Oh, I was close. Okay. So we should look up the, I don't know, 5 to 10 most common names in the NFL and then have our teams that way and see how we do. Just like one season. Like everybody gets all the Johns, everybody gets all the Williams, everybody, you know?
Yeah, the problem is that, like, for example, her team right now would not have a starting quarterback. So it'd be tough. I heard someone drafting just players they thought were handsome, and I thought that was really funny. And the thing is, that person will probably end up winning the league. It's this maddening thing where it's like the more effort you put into it, it's like the sweatiest guy in the league who does the most trades and analysis usually ends up doing terribly. It's the person who picks all the Jakes who wins. Yeah. Listen, maybe next season we do like, a small league with us, and it's just for funsies. We all throw in like $50 and go to charity or whatever, just bragging rights.
Yeah.
And we can talk trash a little bit.
I'll learn. I want to learn.
Okay. Maybe we can get like, little grease jackets or
Oh,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like high school football. Oh, but with basketball shit, we could do it with basketball.
They make trophies for this.
Do people play fantasy basketball?
Oh, everything is fantasy now, so yeah. Listen, everyone is trying to check out these days. There's like fantasy
should.
golf, there's fantasy everything. Yeah.
I'm down for a Drama Queens We Have a Sports podcast. I think that's
That
hilarious.
would be incredible.
Honestly,
It would.
be kind of great.
I would.
And then you go to someone, it's like, hey, Soph, what'd you think about it? And I'm like, what? Sorry, I'm in the kitchen. I got a snack.
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah.
Like nobody knows what's going on.
That's our spin-off podcast. It's Snacks and Sports with people
Snacks
who know
and
very little about sports but love snacks. Do we have any honorable mentions? I mean,
Well,
Sylvia, do you have one? Okay.
This is what I was going to say. I remember a lot of this episode. I clearly did not watch it because I watched the last one, Oopsie Doodles. But I'm going to go ahead and give my honorable mention not to the episode, but to this concept, because I think us doing a fantasy league as a cast would actually be totally sick, and we could probably make a lot of money for charity, and I really like it.
I love it because, like, seriously, if you wanted to go in on it, what you do is you raffle off like someone to co-manage the team with you. There's, I mean, like, if this is
Hello?
actually something I want to do, because I've seen companies do this. A lot of people raise money for St. Jude's, and like they raise obscene amounts of money for doing things like this.
I love that.
Yeah.
Let's do
Jeremy,
it.
let's go.
Listen, I'm on board.
Okay.
Yeah, the honorable mention, I do yourself. It's going to be our upcoming fantasy sports podcast and league that you all are going to be invited to, probably for a small fee that will go to a towards charity. It's a donation,
It's a
guys.
donation. You know
It'll
what
be
that is?
a
It's a tax
Yeah.
deduction. It's a win-win for everybody.
right.
What do you think,
We're
Joy? Do you have
not
something
even,
for the actual episode?
we're not even. Okay, why is there a timer? Anyways, well, that was good. Let me see if anyone. Okay, that was good. Fun things. Next episode is 7/12, so I will watch it, and we'll come back next week to do the same thing. Anyways, bye for now. Have a nice day. I'll see you next time.